Well, hey, everybody, it is Dennis Martin. We're going to talk. Let's talk tonight. We're going to talk about the pandemic and the coronavirus, COVID-19, and then we're going to talk about the norm. What is the new norm? Will we ever get back to normal? I'm coming right back. Join me. All right. Let's talk tonight. And I'm glad that you've joined me for my podcast tonight. We're going to be talking tonight about this pandemic, about the coronavirus. We're going to deal with these things and just ask the question, what will be the new norm? Will we ever get back to normal? Will we ever see normal again? And so we want to talk about it. I just want to start by talking about a few numbers that we have looked at and a few numbers that they've given to us in the United States, because, of course, this pandemic is global. It's everywhere. It's not just in the United States of America, but it's in China. It's in Italy. It's everywhere. People are being affected by this particular virus, this coronavirus. And so the numbers just for the United States, there's been 1 million, as of today, April 30th, 1 million that have tested positive for the virus. We've had 62,000 deaths, and we've got just that in the United States. And then we're talking about others that are talking about opening up. I also saw a thing today that in Louisiana, as of today, Thursday, April 30th, that they've had 341 new cases, total cases 28,001, and deaths they had 1,862 deaths. And then we've got those governors that are opening up their states because they're saying that the economy is suffering. When you've got 33 million people and the number keeps climbing of people that have filed for unemployment, of those that are losing houses and businesses are suffering. They're waiting on loans, and then they have to send out stimulus checks, and the economy has taken a hit. Not only do we have people physically taking a hit with sickness with this virus, but this virus has crippled the economy. And so the president and everybody else, those governmental officials, are trying to open back up the states. 31 states are talking about reopening, and that's Maine, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, you got Colorado, Utah, Arizona, Nevada, Idaho, and even Alaska is talking about opening back up. And so we've got those things that are happening, and they're not sure really how this thing is spreading and how this thing is going. But we can see now that it's almost a new norm. Everywhere you go, people are wearing masks. Everywhere you go, they've got either gloves on or mask on. Even in certain states, they had to relax the laws, which said that they could not wear masks. But because of having to wear masks, they had to relax the law so they could. And then we were in shelter in place. Ours tonight goes out after 12 midnight. In where I live, we are under curfew. I don't think they've changed it. And so at 9 p.m. every night, we're under curfew, and we have to be back stay in the house until 7 a.m. every morning, and that's been a while. And then non-essential businesses have been closed down, and the governor reopened just a few days ago. He reopened certain businesses, barbershops, restaurants, movie theaters, tattoo parlors. I don't know why tattoo parlors, but tattoo parlors, and the list goes on. And he still says that even though he's lifting the shelter in place, he does not want us to go out unless we have to. And he's still asking for us to practice social distancing. And so here's the thing with dealing with this coronavirus that has crippled basically the whole world. When you think of even church, it has crippled church in a way that we have never seen before, at least in my lifetime. For the first time in 20-some years or more, I did not attend a Resurrection Sunday service, and some of you didn't either. When I say attend, I mean physically. We were not able to go to that service. And then, we're doing services online and everything. And I think the last service we had in the building was March 15th. And today it's April 30th. So we've been out. I think this will make week number 6 or 7. And then it's been 40 some days. And so, everyone's in eating more and doing all that. And so we're looking at that. And so the question I have tonight in these few moments that I'm going to just share with you is, let's talk about what may be the new norm. Let's think about it. It may be the new norm. Some things will go back and possibly operate a different way, but there are going to be some things that are going to be added and some things that are going to happen. Why would I come to that conclusion? Well, I remember years ago on September 11th, I never forget, I was in the dentist's office getting ready to have a procedure done. And as I was sitting in the waiting room there, the TV was on, and all of a sudden there was breaking news. And I looked up, and when I looked up at the television, I saw the planes going into the towers, and I saw the towers on fire in New York, and then eventually the towers come down. And that day, it interrupted the whole communication of the world. And the president immediately, President Bush immediately grounded all the airplanes. And they discovered that the people that had took over the planes had got on the planes, and they got through, and then they hijacked the planes. And on one plane that crashed in Pennsylvania, the passengers fought, and they were not able to go to where they wanted to go. But the one that went to New York went into the towers. The two planes went into the towers, and we know what was the result of those. And so the reason I say is because from 9/11, that particular day, we found out that our lives were never the same. We never had the normal things. I've been traveling for years. Since I was a kid, I've been traveling on planes, and you could get to the airport at a certain hour and still make the flight. You'd have to go through any security. You'd have to go through anything. You were like OJ running through the airport just to make your flight, and you made your flight. Didn't have to do any of that. But you remember that life changed, and we never got back to the norm. And here we are all these years later. We are still feeling the effects of 9/11. What do you mean? When you go to the airport, you've got to get there early, almost an hour and a half, 2 hours early, because you never know how long the line's going to be. You've got to go through TSA and when the checkpoint. And whenever someone gets through with anything, then they change things and our lives switch again. We have to switch over. If you don't believe it, remember, at first, we just had to go through and check stuff. But then someone tried to get in with some shoes, something in their shoes. So then we had to start taking our shoes off. Then we had to start taking our belts off. Then we had to almost undress. And so we start seeing that all this stuff start taking place and start happening. Why? Because life was never the same after that. Even in many places, life was never the same. Now, when you go through certain things, even in government buildings and stuff, you have to go through checkpoints and they have to warn you down. Why? Because life was never the same. It was not the same. Now, that is the new norm for traveling. It is the new norm for some of the things we have to do today. It's the new normal. So the question tonight that I want to share with you and ask is, will we ever get back to life as we once knew it before this coronavirus, before this pandemic? Will we ever get back to that life like we once knew? I contend and say, I don't think so. Even though 9/11 was one thing and they hit the tower, the Twin Towers, and those things happened. And we know that there were, I think, 3,000 or more people that died in that particular thing, and others were injured and hurt, and buildings were destroyed, even to the Pentagon. But now understand that this right here is not an American deal. It is something that has hit the whole world, where the president and others have closed the borders to stop letting people into the country. And so now we've got to prepare ourselves for what may be the new norm. When we go back to church, when we get back to the building, could it be that we will not go back the same way we left as far as how we worship? We'll still worship, but how we seated, how we go in, what will be the new norm? What do you think will be the new norm when it comes to that? When we go to eat, they've already started putting things in the restaurants where you can only sit so many people in the restaurant. So many people can be in there. The stores have one way in, one way out. Other doors that you could go in are now closed. What will be the new norm? Everyone, they're asking us to wear masks. We laughed at the late Michael Jackson when he had a mask on every time he went out and put it on his kids. But now it is the new norm. Today, Delta Airlines said that they're going to require of their passengers to wear some type of face mask or covering when they fly. Walmart has required, and they requiring their workers to wear masks. And so we see that this will be somewhat of the new norm. And life as we once knew it probably will never get back to just the way it was. There are some businesses that may not open again. There are some places that have been affected. There are families that have been affected that it may take them a while to recover. And so what is the new norm? How are we going to deal with it? How are you going to deal with it? How am I going to deal with this that may be the new norm? When we look at it, it's not life as we once knew it before this, because now we got to deal with them not really knowing how this is really spread it, and how this thing is getting around, even to the point that now they reported their first case of the coronavirus in a dog, in an animal. And we see these cases going on. And at first they were saying if you are 65 or older, you need to stay in. And if you've got these conditions, heart conditions, diabetes and stuff, you need to stay in. But now they're experiencing where younger people are passing, having strokes and those things. And we're praying that they will find the cure or this will go away. But even after it's gone, the question tonight is, what will be the norm after this? Will we have a normal life? Will we go back to normal? Will we be able to do things we did before? Will we be able to congregate, not just in church, but congregate in other things? Will the sporting world ever get back to normal? Will baseball be the same? Will football be the same? Will basketball be the same? Will these events and things be the same? Or will people be afraid of, maybe somebody's got it and we don't know? And so life probably will never go back to being the same way. And so we have to get used to probably some things that will change. There's some things that probably will get back to normal. They'll get back and you'll be able to just do what you did before. But then there's some things that will not go back to being the same way. And so when we look at these numbers and these things that are taking place, it's staggering. And we have to give a shout out to the first responders, to the healthcare workers, to the doctors and the nurses, and those that are on the front line, to the scientists that are trying their best to get this thing under control. We've got to give a shout out to them and just say that we are praying for you and we support you because you're putting your life. Some of them are leaving home so we can live, and they're taking care of loved ones. People are dying without relatives, without friends. And so the norm, it's already changed a lot of stuff. You remember when we had homegoing services, usually they were packed. Usually it was just, it was those events, even in the homegoing celebration, where we would get excited and we would have words and stuff. But now we're seeing where they're having grave side services, or no one's permitted in the church or in the chapel or wherever it may be, but maybe 10 to 15 people saying their final farewells. Some people are not permitted. They've talked to the person the last time when they saw them when they got sick, and they didn't come back out. And so no hospital visits. So life as we once knew it will not be the same. It has changed. So the question we're asking tonight in this podcast is, with life changing the way it has, and with things doing, there's some things that change that we can't control. This is one of them. There's some things we have control over. We can change a lot of stuff. But this one here we can't control because it's not biased. It doesn't see color, doesn't see money. It doesn't see who you are. It doesn't care who you are. And it is hitting. And so we have to deal with it as it has come. And we've been dealing with it some 40 some days or more. So it's the new norm. What are some of the things that you're doing that has changed in these last 40 some days? I know I go out, and when I go out, I go to the store to buy food or some items, but just some things that I need to do some things with. I have to remember that the stores are closed. You can't go to the stores. Some of them are opening back up, but you can't go to the stores. And I'm like, oh my God, there are places that have closed down, and there's some soup places that are closing and other things. And so as being the norm, we just don't have it. Many of us can relate. Now, I've always been somewhat of a homebody, but some of you probably can relate that you have never stayed in your house this much and this long. And you got to find something to do and find things to look at and to get busy. It's a good time for praying, fasting, reading your word. And then when you get finished with that, there are other things. And then all of us have been eating and eating and eating until we can't eat anymore. And then you've been locked down so long that you even forget the day of the week and what day it is. And so it is something we've got to get used to. And so tonight, in my conclusion, I want to say to those of us that are here, and want you to just ask yourself, give you something to think about. What is the new norm? Some of you might agree. Some of you might not agree. I respect your opinion, but do you ever think we'll get back to the norm? I think we'll get back halfway, but I don't think we're going to get back all the way. You may think we're going to get back all the way. We may, but I think we'll get back halfway. Even though they're opening up a little bit at a time, I think there's some things that will never change once they're in place. We'll be doing them for a while. I think we'll be wearing masks for a while. I hope not forever, but I do think we'll be wearing masks for a while. I think the way we shop and do things, we'll be doing it different. And again, I do believe even the way we do church and worship is going to be different. it's affecting everybody. And I believe it's going to be different. And so I want you to just think about it and just remember 9/11 changed the way we travel. It changed the way we went to the airport. It changed the way we did a whole lot of stuff. Whole lot of things changed. And every time, again, they did something at the airport or tried to get by with something, it changed to the point that you could carry water and all that stuff, and you had to put your little things in a little bitty bottle and stuff. Life changed. Everything changed. And so let's think about that, and let's understand that these things are changing every day. And so tonight, as we're talking, just ask yourself and just answer, do you think we'll ever be the same? Do you think life will be the same? Or we'll go back to the same life we had before this pandemic or coronavirus? Let me hear what you got to say in the comment section. I look forward to hearing and reading your comments and interacting with you. Thank you for joining me with Let's Talk tonight. We talked about the pandemic, this coronavirus, and will we ever be and go back to normal? The Lord bless you and the Lord keep you is my prayer. Thank you for joining me.